saw during the peak of mass incarceration and the drug war, all of this punishment that is heaped upon people of color, we have solutions. And this gentleman is someone who goes out there and who pushes for solutions, and goes out there and deals with young people in NYCHA, who deals with young people in the communities, the ones that they try to put in our newspapers and tell us that they're gangbangers and they're the worst of the worst. This is someone who goes and who actually does something radical, which is talk to them, which is speak with them, which is build with them. And that's what we want to push forward when we're saying no raise. We're also saying we have the community has the solutions. The police don't have the solutions. The police never have the solutions. And in many cases, they're making things worse in these communities. So we're not gonna let them tell us how violence works and how violence doesn't work, because they are the most violent institution in the history of America. With that being said, I want to introduce Taylor Murphy Sr., who's an activist and a parent who's been pushing along these issues for several years. Give it up for Taylor.
First and foremost, I want to say peace and solidarity.
Peace.
This is the beginning of the change that we need. We have people from all over the city coming together to speak out against something that is so rash, so vile, and so harmful to our many communities, mainly the ones that are marginalized and impoverished. Yes, I am a man that has been affected by all these different things that Joe Smart has just spoken about. My daughter was killed in 2011. Then, in 2014, my son was taken and put on an indictment where there was a gang raid, quote unquote, gang, trigger word. I don't call these young people gang members. I don't call them gang bangers. I call them young people that need some guidance, that need some people to go out into the community and show them the right way to live. That's what I'm doing now. In 2014, June 4th of 2014, that was once the most biggest gang raid, the Manhattanville and Grant gang raid, where they took 103 individuals out of a community. When you take 103 individuals out of any community, you absolutely and positively, take away generations. You're weakening that community. You're using all these resources to come in with 400 police officers, tanks, helicopters, to take away 103 individuals that were 11, 12, 13, 14, no older than 15, 16. How do you do that to a community? Let me ask you this question. Would that have been done in Westchester County? Would that have been done in Suffolk County? No, it's only done in our impoverished communities to keep oiling a machine. And that machine is the criminal just us system. And when I say just us, I mean JUSTUS. Because only people that are affected by that criminal justice system unfairly are people that live in impoverished communities. I'm here to say that there are people that are in these impoverished communities that want to make a change. You are looking at some of them right now. There's people that's been standing here fighting against police brutality, fighting against the criminalization of our youth, fighting against poverty, which poverty is the main source on which the violence is manufactured from. And when I say poverty, I'm not talking about economic poverty. I'm talking about social poverty. I'm talking about when you have poor resources, when you have poor outreach, when you have people that do not understand the mental health issues and the trauma, the generational trauma that affects our community. That is an issue. That is poverty. And most of that poverty is manufactured. It's manufactured by not funding or not providing the right resources to the right people to get things done. I do not think that the police policies that they are using right now are the solution to this social poverty. I believe that youth building, I believe that uplifting your community, I believe in speaking to the youth, I believe in changing their norms and changing their mindsets. That is what is the underlying answer to the things that we are dealing with now. I know that for a fact. The reason why I know that for a fact, because I am a supervisor out in one of the biggest housing developments in the city. Matter of fact, in the Northern Hemisphere. And we just got finished having 365 plus days of no shootings. And May 20th, it'll make 2 years of no murders. So you mean to tell me that 6 individuals, let me say that, 6 individuals that actually patrol our community, actually strive to uplift our community, actually strive to change the norms of our community, and 6 individuals are able to do that, you tell me what all of us weren't able to do.
That's right, Taylor.
You tell us, as if we stand together in solidarity and we stand together strong, united, and we start speaking out about these things that are unruly and unjust, what could we do? I say that we can change this city. I say that we can make our community somewhere that will flourish. I believe that we can do many things with unity, support, and the right resources directed in the right way. I also say that we need to start getting together and pooling our own resources together.
That's right.
I also say that we should depend on anybody else to take care of our communities. I also say that we need to come together and fight against these things that are unjust in these impoverished communities, because once they take away all our children, whose children you think they're coming from? This is a racial thing woven in the fabric of what America was built on. The rich, the bourgeoisie, against the proletariat. I stand here with the proletarians. I stand here asking for justice. I stand here asking that we look at this in a different way. I stand here saying that we should keep the pressure on the administration. We should keep the pressure on the government, local, federal, and state government. We should let them know that we do not agree with these raids and agree with you taking our young men and women out of their homes in the middle of the night, military style, locking them up, having conspiracy statues thrown on them that were created for the mob. My personal story, I done watched young people that just couldn't handle what they saw. A young woman getting killed. They couldn't understand what was going on. They needed more of a bereavement team than a police department accosting them. I ask now that we take this day and we take the momentum from this day and keep moving forward to change the policies that they use to keep our young people down and impoverish our Black and Latino brothers and sisters. And with that, I say peace and solidarity. Peace.
Here with no other than the great Nat Wood.
Adjust your television set. You are fortunate enough to have tuned in to 30 frames a second.
You have spun that into the fact where the victim is now the perpetrator and the perpetrator is now the victim. And that just drives me crazy. Good afternoon, y'all. It's 30 frames a second. I'm Nat Wood. And as the opening said, I have the privilege of having the group that started it all, the Black Spades, and we're gonna talk about Spades history, the history of hip hop. And we're also going to talk about gangs and activism as it stands today. We're going to talk about some of the things that some of the members of, like I said, this is the group. I refuse to say the word gang, simply because it's a word that's been used against us by our enemies so efficiently that I want to get away from that and deal with the human aspect. Certainly it was an organization. It was an organization of young people. And I'm not going to speculate as to the circumstances that brought them together, especially since I have them with me. With that being said, I have with me my brother next to me, David X, my comrade, my soldier. the other half of the Panther, Lion, and Queen days of the great Florence M. Rice, David X. And I have Marion. No, I'm just messing around. That's my brother Tiny. And are you a pastor?
Yeah, I'm pastor-elect now. I'll be installed next month on the 17th.
Excellent, excellent. I forget your...
My name is Reginald Paris. They call me Pastor Reggie.
Pastor Reggie, that's what he said. That's what I'm old. Today's my birthday, so...
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, the government said I'm old. I got a letter.
They give them a check.
Yeah, yeah, they're a little slow on the check thing. I gotta write them back.
Okay.
With that being said, you joined the Black Spades in, you said what year?
1971.
That's you were, what did they call them? Baby spades?
We have baby spades, young spades.
Young spades.
And just regular spades.
But I wasn't a baby spade, I was a black spade.
Okay, you got in as a
I
regular
was 17
spade.
around that time.
Baby spades were under 15?
Baby spades were always young, much younger.
Much
They
younger.
came from like 13 to 15.
Right,
You know?
right. Now, what was the when did you get in? When did you get involved?
Well, I was one of those baby spades, but we refused to be called babies, so they just called us young spades because we didn't do baby
that's all they
things.
say on that.
You know, I was 12.
Well, they
and then
call y'all babies
officially
now all over the
13.
internet.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But, you know, I was much younger, and I worked my way up through the ranks and became a regular spade.
What was the circumstances? How did you become affiliated with the
Well,
Spades?
I grew up with all of them.
You grew up with
yes,
them?
uptown in Northeast Bronx, and I was loosely associated with all of them, but I didn't actually belong to this gang or to that gang. I was one of those guys that ran around everywhere.
Right.
You know.
Were you in the projects? Were all you guys in the projects?
Well, different
Some of
areas.
us, tenement buildings, projects.
And I lived up the street from Edenwall Projects.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Were you in the project?
I'm out of the South Bronx, Mount Haven projects.
All right. How did you guys come together? First of all, Tiny, I think Tiny was there first.
Much older, yeah.
And you became a Spades not much after the Spades were invented. I think the Spades were invented like late 60s, and you're right there, 71. So you're basically at the beginning of it all.
Well, you know, the spades were there. And in our neighborhood, the spades wasn't there. We heard of the spades, you know, down in Patterson Projects, Mount Haven Projects in the South Bronx. And we had some brothers that came in who hung out uptown, and they brought it downtown. We adapted to it. You understand? We liked the concept of what they were doing at the time. And what they was doing was protecting their projects. You know, back then, the dope era was back then, you know, and you had a lot of snatching bags, and we protected our neighborhood, you know, and we tried to keep a lot of the drugs out of the neighborhood. Right. So that was our initial concept, you know, of creating the spades in our neighborhood.
Right. Now, when you say the dope era, for those who don't know what he's talking about, he's specifically talking about the heroin era. And the heroin era had a grip on the black community. The heroin era, like most drug epidemics, was basically inflicted upon young black, at that time, specifically males, but it sort of branched out and got everybody eventually. But it was designed to quell the growing political awareness of young black males. And it was done, we flipped the word around, collusion. Well, the FBI and organized crime, and we learned from I think the Knapp Commission that the police department all colluded to infest, not just infect, but infest black youth with the scourge of heroin addiction. It was a terrible, terrible era. I grew up in Harlem, and I don't think there was a household anywhere that was not malaffected by heroin addiction. I mean, everybody was either strung out or had a family member who was strung out, or lived in a building that somebody was strung out. So it was a horrific time. And you said out of this, the Black Spades were born.
Well, in the beginning, from the history that I know, I wasn't there from the very beginning, but from the history that I have learned over the years, there was a group, a bunch of brothers, 7 of them, called the Savage 7, and they came out of the Bronx River, Soundsview, and area, Bronxdale, and these brothers got together, and their mission was to protect their projects, helping the old ladies out of the projects, you understand, and keeping the drugs away. So, you know, when the Spades first established themselves, from the history that I've learned so far, their mission was to protect and serve their neighborhood. You know, as the madness erupted, as time came, that's another story. But the mission, the goal, was to protect their neighborhoods.
Right. In its inception, it came off the backs or the shoulders of the Black Panther Party, Black Liberation Army, you know, the young lords, you know, helping the community, protecting the community, because at that time, you know, you had an onset of white supremacy. You had white gangs who were coming up against the kids in the projects and the adults and pushing them out. You couldn't go sometime across the street into the next neighborhood without the white gangs attacking too. So they had to keep that element away, as well as the drugs and whatever else they had going on that was negative to that community.
I'm glad you mentioned the 7, because that gets into the growth of the organization that would come to be referred to as the Black Spades. And I'm also glad you mentioned the Panthers and the political awareness, because when I think of the Black Spades, and I'm not much older than a lot of the Black Spades, although I had a penchant for hanging out with older guys. So and David is just a little older than my younger brother. So the failures, the devastation that was wreaked upon my generation, your generation kind of came out of that. Your musical taste, you listen to our music, you grew up in the neighborhoods that we ran in. And as I said before, there was a political astuteness and awareness that was coming out of that era that you were able to grip upon. That we were like lambs to slaughter in this whole thing.
Well, ironically, you said that political because even 2 of the founding members followed the Nation of Islam. So with that, you know, it was already there that we were in that political realm. So, and that's how they organized it from there. And then it just branched out. And then at one time, the Black Spades was considered the largest so-called street gang, but we like to say street organizations, in New York City at that time.
I think that's how you involve the police and all those political things, because they label you a gang. So that changes the mindset as to how they look at you. You know, you may have any idea as to what you want to do and what your purpose is, but once they label you a gang, everybody looks at you differently. And that's when inadvertently happened.
And we were targeted by the police too. So so we had that other entity that was going up against us at the time.
And it's the same thing with the drugs that you were speaking of. They didn't do anything about it as long as it was in our neighborhoods. Leave it there. You know, but now you look at things now and the drugs, they're all up in arms because now it's in their neighborhoods and their kids are getting destroyed. So now it's a big deal. But it wasn't a big deal when it was in our neighborhood. They didn't care.
They didn't care.
You know?
Well, when it was our neighborhood, the solutions were simple. They gave us the Rockefeller program and life. And then when the crack epidemic came, which was also perpetrated on our communities, they gave us mass incarceration, even though they gave us, they bombarded our communities with crack and weaponry. I'm glad you, Pastor Reg, I'm glad you mentioned that because one of the things that we are confronted with is America's love of how it portrays black people, especially black youth. If you do a show that's about family, I mean, there's only been a couple of black folks who've been able to do that, and they literally put the kibosh on those one or two brothers that were able to pull that off. You know, they brought down white hell on them, excuse the expression, on them. But by and large, if you want to sell a movie, you need black folks killing black folks, sitting on their yachts and whatnot, selling drugs, I've seen the pictures of the Black Spades. I've seen the pictures of the Bronx 120. I was born in Harlem Hospital, grew up in Harlem. The amount of black people with their own yachts is few and far between. You know,
we don't like water that much.
But this image, America is crazy about this image. This is the only image they that they like to see black people in. You know, I mean, Jay-Z forever talking about when he sold dope. He was a little child. You know, how much dope could you sell? You know, I mean,
they like to glorify that kind of thing.
Correct. And romanticize.
Right, romanticize. It's kind of interesting that the clip you showed, it just shows how they target our communities. Because in that particular neighborhood, I think that was Manhattanville, Grant, and Morningside. Back in our days, that was predominantly, you had the Scorpions, the Turks, and the Grant brothers. And they didn't have that problem with so-called gang violence and drugs. Again, those gangs, so-called gangs, were family-oriented. And that's why they formed, because they were that extended family. And they were so tight, they wouldn't allow that kind of entity into the community. So now you have these so-called gangs of today where they just running rampant, and the police are targeting them. What was it, 120 people got arrested? You know, they just come in and bombard the projects and the tenements too around those surrounding areas, and they just go buck wild.
One of the things, because I covered that press conference, and one of the things that came out that I wasn't aware of was that they used the RICO statute, which had never been used in New York City. They used RICO in California, and they used RICO in Chicago. And every time they've used RICO to round up masses of blacks in a so-called gang raid, the effect of it was not to make life better in those areas, but the gang problem got progressively worse. Also, what I was not aware of was the fact that, well, first of all, Ramarley Graham was in the area that they used. That they swept. But they were surveilling children as young as the age of 10 and 11 years old and waited for years. So there was never any thought of intervention That goes to a case that just came out of South Carolina, where the police saw this 9-year-old boy playing with this little plastic toy gun in front of his own house, got out of the car, actually told the boy to put it down, said he heard something about some rocks, and then went over and picked up the gun and saw the little plastic tip and put it back down in a spot where it happened real fast. I don't think he realized that he got that much of it in his body cam. And proceeded to handcuff a 9-year-old boy with his hands behind his back, put him in the police car, charge him with illegal playing or playing unlawful or something. It was something strange. And when his mother came out to find out why he did this, the cop handcuffed her and put her in the car.
So with obstruction.
Right. So there is a psychological thing that they are doing to get young black people used to going to prison, to see themselves in this light.
I hadn't heard of that incident that you're speaking of, but it reminds me of the young man that got killed. Some years ago, they had been playing with a toy gun. Where I think was that
the one in the park?
He was in the park,
right?
And he got killed. And I was at a meeting the other day, and that was one of the things that I brought up. That, in fact, I said at a meeting, or I was at church, and because I often talk about things that come in to the community and mind change, and it bothers me that I have to instruct 11 and 12-year-old boys that if they're accosted by the police, where to keep your hands, or how to keep your hands, or how to speak, not because I'm trying to tell them to respect the police, but I'm trying to save their life. Right. And that's sad that we got to do that in our communities. The thing is, from my standpoint, is that we have to take our communities back. And the first way that we take it back is by changing how we look at things. How we look at things, how we look at ourselves. You see, we have to first start looking at ourselves in a different light so that we feel that we're standing here instead of standing here. Right. And once we begin to change our mindset, then we begin to change what we do. And when you change what you do, then you become able to take control over those things that you're supposed to have control of. We have no control. Right. We don't. And we can if we just change how we look at things.
Yeah, we need a complete constructive change.
That's it.
Not just any old change.
That's it.
A complete constructive change, like the pastor said, from within. I mean, if I look in the mirror, I should see me, I should see you, I should see us, and we should be better people. I mean, because we were better people. We are better people.
We are better people.
Because before the oppressors came in, we were doing fine. We had our own businesses, we had our big families, we had what do you call it, with the other families come in and join,
family,
extended family. So we, and that's where that whole
literally the village raised you,
right. And
disciplined you, and everything else.
That has been destroyed.
Right, they break
that has been destroyed. We grew up at a time, and I'm sure we all in the same age group, where if your neighbor saw you doing something, am I right?
Yeah.
If your neighbor saw you doing something, you got checks, and you could get a hard check, and then when mama and daddy came home, you got another check, and that was the village raising us. That was like, Mabel, I seen so,
But social media has changed our total outlook of everything for all of us, because everything we talking about, the killing of our people, you understand, this has been going on for years, but now we're allowed to see it through social media, and we're allowed to see the killing of our kids, the killing of ourselves. And the thing about it, the kids today, like we say, we had structure, somewhat structure, and coming up. There's no structure now, and now that the kids are allowed to see a lot of these things firsthand, they're starting to rebel. We rebelled, but we didn't rebel like they did. Maybe because we didn't see a lot of things. Maybe because we didn't hear a lot of things. And one thing the pastor say, there's got to be a change. The change has to come from within us, and the change also has to come from the system. Because right now, the Black Spades are trying to do bigger and better things. We got an organization now called TBS New Direction, you understand? And it's basically all Black Spades, and Pastor Reggie sits here today as our spiritual advisor, and we all belong to his church and we all work together. But we got to get out there and make a difference, because social media is allowing our kids to see things that we didn't see, and it's affecting their minds and how they think and how they feel. And it's a constant battle when we go out there now talking to our kids, especially when we see what they see.
See, and I'm gonna let you interject, but it's social media has no power other than the power we give it. And one of the problems that an organization like the Black Spades has is that, as we were saying, we were talking about TV romanticizing violence. There's a lot of people who use social media. A lot of people who have made a lot of money, who was birthed out of this organization. KRS-One, I mean, I might as well drop some names. KRS-One was quick to point out that the Black Spades was the most violent thing that ever came out of, ever lived and breathed, and this is where the great African Bambaataa came out of, and he laid hands on the organization and said, let there be peace, and all of a sudden, y'all, it was peace all over the land, and then he went and found a couple of little boys and lived happily ever after or some stuff. But we are now talking about the true birth of the organization. I'm not trying to sensationalize it. I'm not trying to conjure up images, hoping that I can get more YouTube hits. We're trying to, David is one of the greatest activists I've ever known. He keeps me straight. We're trying to actually see the truth of what it is, where it came from, how it came about, and where do we move forward to confront the aggressive oppression that is just like we're bombarded with. Things didn't just happen to us.
There's a lot of people, before you had these round tables with brothers coming like ourselves coming up and started speaking out, you got a lot of people that was coming up with stories, I call them, you understand, to sell, okay, make money. You know, and let me tell you something, a lot of myths out there of walking on the water, departing the sea, and this and that. No, Spades, let me tell you something, nobody can speak for the Spades, but Spades themselves. KRS was never Spade. You understand? Bambaataa was never, he was never a great leader of the Spades.
He was just a member.
He was just a member.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And he wasn't a founding member.
He wasn't a founding member, no. And I don't talk ill of him.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
But when we start talking about the truth of the Spades, you have to go back to the Savage Seven. Then after them come the founders. And after the founders, you understand, then you go into the future with the other brothers and sisters. You know, we got a lot of Spades out there doing a lot of good things.
As a matter of fact, not even just Savage Seven, because before that name was bestowed on them, because I don't think they were calling themselves Savages, but it started out with two brothers having a conversation. You see? And those two brothers birthed other brothers who had the same mindset and the same ideas and the same ideology and put it to work in the community. Now, where it went left at, that's a few years later, because then you had different groups, you know, splinter groups and other. I mean, the Black Spades got so large. I mean, we were in all 5 boroughs, in Connecticut and other
you was
states,
you
Florida,
Puerto Rico, Florida, you all over. And like Brother David said, you're gonna hear a whole lot of stories.
Right.
Okay, nobody say our stories is the real story.
Nobody asked the founders.
You know what though? But the only ones that could really put a real light on the real birth of this organization It's the founders, Brother Pete. We just had one brother passed away, Brother Sunshine. You understand? Guru. You see, these brothers are the ones who were supposed to be here today, but they couldn't be here. David Brockington, who I never met David Brockington. Okay, I've met the other brothers, and these brothers are the only brothers that could put the light on. Yes, we got a lot of different divisions. The Spades was over 200 divisions in the South Bronx alone.
Right.
You're not talking about Puerto Rico. You're not talking about in the South. You're not talking about even with the Bloods and Crips in California, we had Spades out there. So, you can get 3 more brothers that'll come sit at this table behind us, and they'll give you different stories. But like I said, the birth comes from the founders. We can only speak of portions of the Spades of our time and the roles that we play. And today, we play a role. And that role, you understand, is we preaching public safety and the quality of life in our communities. Because like you said, it's going to take the village to come back. The village, which I say the OGs have to stand up, be recognized, be accountable, because it's going to take us to go out there, not to fight, not to yell, not to scream and holler, but to talk, to show. You understand? To show our little brothers and sisters there is a way, a better way. And you understand? Unfortunately, a lot of our kids won't see that way because our kids are dying. They're dying. And the death rate of black on black is far greater than the police killing us. We're killing ourselves.
Right.
But like Pastor Reggie said, Pastor Reggie held a class in the church, even speaking to us, the congregation. Listen, this is how we got to teach our kids when we confront it. We have to teach our kids. But like I said before, social media, it's downplay all over, not just with TV shows and what they see or how people put up on Facebook. We have to teach our kids, man, that there's a better way, because through the grace of God, I sit here before you. Hopefully, through the grace of God, 1,000 more of our kids will sit here before you. And you know what?
I got you on that one, bro.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something. When they do sit here before you, let's hope and pray. The other day we did a public speaking, okay, with a bunch of youth corps workers. Now we have been invited to talk to youth corps workers because they got the kids in one spot. So they're bringing us into different community centers where the kids are for the youth corps, and we're letting them know education is the key. You understand? You may not understand that education is the key now, but one day when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, you got to have something to fall on, a skill, education, something. Because right now our kids don't value anything but the streets, and don't understand the streets are here forever, but we're not.
I'm in agreement with what he's saying, and as far as the Spades are concerned, they were a great organization. They're still a great organization. But what was is was. It's
That's
what
right.
is that matters now.
That's why we got TBS.
That's what I was getting ready to say. That's what that stands for. New direction. We're all going in a different direction, a better way, and we're looking to change minds. If you want something different, you got to do something that makes a difference. And that's what we all are trying to do, make that difference. And the only way we're going to get to them is we go to them, because they're not going to come to us. Right. So we got to go to them. It's like I say in my church again. I said, when I became pastor-elect, the first thing I was telling them is that we're going to make some noise out here on this corner. And they're looking at me like they don't understand what I'm saying. I said, yeah, we're going to make some noise, because we can't change things from the inside. We have to change things from the outside.
Right.
And that's the only way it's going to happen. And we've been aligned together, and he's always got me running somewhere, and I'm always got him running somewhere. And we running together, trying to make that change. And we'll go anywhere, talk to anybody, and if they're not listening, we'll say something to get them to listen, just like that social media. That's the problem with the social media, is that it grabs them, and it keeps their attention. So now we got to go forward and grab them and keep their attention. And how do we do it? Because we think like them. And when I say we think like them, we've been where they are. I wear a collar today, but I didn't always wear a collar.
Always wear a tie.
You understand what I'm saying? And
don't let the cute suit fool you.
That's the truth about it. So it takes brothers like us to get out there to be able to talk to them because they look at us differently.
Right.
See, they look at us as somebody that knows and can understand what they're saying. You know, you can't just go to anybody and talk about certain things because they don't know where you've been because they've never been there. We, on the other hand, we've been there, we've done these things, we've been involved with these things, we threw some rocks, you know, so we understand what they're going through. So that gives us at least 2 or 3 steps on everybody else because we at least can relate to them. And it makes a difference. You know, but we got to do it. We got to get out there and do it. We got to do what we can in order to change their mindset.
Right.
We got to give them some encouragement, some inspiration, some initiative, because they don't have those things. Like you said, education. They don't realize or care about that. You know, because why do I need that? I can make $5,000 a week selling this. But you're destroying your neighborhood.
Right.
You're destroying your people. Yeah.
And the number of people making $5,000 a week are few and far between.
That was just a number.
Yeah. Well, even if you make a couple of bucks, the runs are generally short. No, they
That's
never
it.
tell the truth about what it is. I mean, I think in a place like New York City, the whole of New York City, especially when you talk about Manhattan, the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Queens, and to some degree Staten Island, 80% of the kids can say, I sold drugs.
That's right. That's right.
You know,
but that same 80% can say that I have a friend that got shot and killed.
Correct. And the selling drugs is overblown. I mean, one day you got some weed, the next day your man got some.
You know, they got it all mixed up because back in the days, you know, those cats made some money.
Correct.
Some of them put back into the community.
Correct.
These drug dealers today, what you got, 10 on one corner?
Well, that is the
making any
difference
money.
between children who think they're involved in something that are really, and people who really did it. Because you're right, back in the day, people who sold drugs on that level were adults, and they put money in the black music industry. It was that drug money that brought soul to PBS. They gave back to their communities. They did a whole lot of things, but that was our history and our tradition. You mentioned the Bloods and the Crips. Even when they talk about the birth of hip hop, they almost always start with the NWA, F the Police era, but that's not the birth of hip hop. The birth of hip hop was birthed by basically my younger brothers and their peer group throwing parties in the parks, snatching electricity from the light.
Well, you know what? It is funny that we go into the hip hop era now because the Spades play a major role in the birth of hip hop.
That is correct.
You understand? When you go back to hip hop, you're going back. You understand? To Grandmaster Flash, Cool Herc, you understand?
Disco
King Mario, who's no longer, God bless him, who's no longer here. You know, you're going back into the the era
and
where
Bambaataa came out of Mario. Mario didn't come out of Bambaataa.
Well,
they don't give Mario
I can't determine which one was first.
Well,
but I
Mario
know
had the system. Mario had the system.
I know they were together.
Mario's system and Bambaataa was like his understudy.
Correct.
Mario begat Bambaataa. Bambaataa didn't beget Mario.
Well, you know, Mario didn't live long enough to get the props that he's supposed to get. And it erases him.
It erases him out of the whole history.
But you know why?
By erasing him, you erase the true essence
of hip hop. Because hip hop feel if you don't make a record, you know, there's a lot. You got a lot of brothers out there. Cool Cal, you got Mario. Cool Cal is still alive. You got a lot of brothers that didn't make. You understand? Records.
Cool D,
Rock and Rob, Chucky. Those brothers are all still out there major contributions today,
Right.
still
Right.
to hip hop,
Right.
but because they didn't make a record, they're
Right.
not known. No.
Right.
Right now they have a petition going around where they want to name the park, you understand, after DJ Mario. Okay, Scott LaRock just got a street named after him. Scott LaRock wasn't, I mean, I don't think when he passed away, I don't think he had a record.
Right.
But
he was good, but
he was
wasn't
good.
one
Oh,
of the
him and
founders
KRS
of
was
it.
good.
Correct.
Him and
Correct.
KRS was
Correct.
good. I know them personally.
Correct.
But what I'm saying is that
Correct.
they don't give,
Right.
as you would say, props to those who deserve props. And if you don't make a record, they don't consider you nothing.
Or they're not gonna like this one. It was the kill that made it popular for Scott LaRock.
Right.
Because if he hadn't got murdered, who's to say how far his name would have went?
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
So
And it's not just the record thing. It's not just by when you have people, especially prominent people who were there, like not at the beginning, but almost the beginning, like KRS-One, who is now saying that hip hop was birthed out of this super violent gang, and that Bam went to Africa and found the karma and came back.
It sells records.
You know,
it sells,
But what it does is,
distort the truth.
It's distort the
What
truth
it does-
of black people, not just hip hop, because the music itself, like we were saying, came out of a completely different vibe.
Right.
It didn't come out of violence and hatred.
No, it
if
didn't.
anything, it came to respond to what was done to the generation before them, and banding together to make something better out of nothing.
doesn't that sound like Mother Africa?
Yeah.
You play those drums,
Right,
the people
right.
will come,
Come.
they'll join in the dance,
Right,
the festivities.
right.
Same thing. Before it was called hip hop, what was it called?
Right.
We were playing music in the streets
Right,
way before
right,
hip hop.
right.
But
They-
Mario played music before it was hip hop.
But they
You
got
plug
a-
it
they
in
got
Miss
a-
Betty's house, you
Yeah.
plug it in,
Right.
and
And
you go out there with the speakers and you play some music and people gather. Then you bring the food out, more people gather.
Right, right.
It was a family thing of love and peace.
But they also got a saying, the first one who bring it to the table is the first one that's going to sell more papers. And you got to remember, KRS and all, Bam Bada and all of them, they were the first to come out and say certain things.
Right.
Okay, now you have people coming behind them with the contradiction and putting the truth on the table. You know, I'm not in the DJ world. You understand? I can't sit here and contradict a lot of them things. I can contradict some when it comes to the Black Spades because I was there. But it's like we all say, the first one to come to the table or the first one to bring it out is the first one to get the benefits.
Or the first one that make the back doors
Yeah.
deals, you know,
Yeah,
the backroom deals.
whatever.
I ain't
You know,
mad
whatever.
about the
I
money.
ain't mad
I'm
at
just
it.
saying that it's kind of late now to try to distort the story. Now, I mean, you go.
But you still got people who believe that nonsense.
They need to believe it because, like we were saying, not only does it glorify black crime and black criminality, it romanticizes it. So there was a pause in our history where young people weren't getting our history. My generation was linked to the past generation. There was a break after the civil rights era where we have a whole generation that was not linked to their past.
And you're talking about the crack era now.
You're
Because
talking about
when you're
the crack
talking about
era.
the crack era, we destroyed a whole generation
Right.
of grandmothers and grandfathers. Before the crack generation, the big mama, as I call it, Big Mama was 50 and better. Right. Now Big Mama's 35, and Big Mama don't even know she's Big Mama. You understand what I'm saying? And it's like we destroyed a whole generation with the crack era.
You know, one other problem that I see sometimes, and to me it's like if something happens, we jump up and down and scream about it.
Right.
But then when it quiets down,
Right.
you sit back in the chair and don't say nothing.
Right.
So when you look at the civil rights era, you know, we were all screaming and hollering. We was more together than ever, except for, you know, slavery times and all that. But we were more together, and we were walking together. We were talking together. We were all saying the same thing.
We were willing to die together.
We was all doing that.
Right.
But as soon as they said and signed that
y'all
paper,
free now, right?
you know what I'm saying? And as soon as they did that, it was over. You know, we all said, I'm done, I'm good, you know, I'm through.
Right.
That's the problem.
Right.
You know, we should have still been screaming even today. Because if we were, we would be, you just look at how things work. Everybody that comes into this country is over us.
Right.
Everybody.
Right.
Everybody. That's how, everybody that comes in, they on top of us. Now, why is that? That's not the way it should be. It's because we sit back and say, oh, he's gonna give me a chance one day.
Right.
You know, we may not like how that sounds, but it's the truth.
Right.
You know,
You
we have to, instead of just being, when something happens, holler and scream, we need to holler and scream all the time.
Right.
You know, until we get what we're supposed to get. And I'm going to say this, and it's just like with the police. Now, I'm not pro-police. I'm not against police either.
Right.
Because everybody has a use.
Right.
All right? The reason why they do what they do to us is because how we allow them to look at us.
Right. Right.
If we can change that perception
Right.
as to how they look at us,
Right.
then we will be using them
Right.
instead of them beating us. You understand what I'm saying?
But the first
It's
phase of that is how we look at
ourselves.
Ourselves.
That was my next,
back to
and that
self.
goes back to what I said in the beginning.
Yeah.
We have to change how we look at ourselves, how we think. You know, and then we'll be able to change, because right now, whether you wear a suit and tie or even a collar, you know, when they look at us, they see the enemy.
Right.
They see the enemy.
Right.
That's who they see.
Right.
As long as you like this,
Right.
it don't matter what you wear or how you walk. You may
And
think
apparently, when we look in the mirror, we see the enemy.
Some of
Even
us,
greater, right?
some of
Yes.
these even greater. But this is why I'm sorry, but this is why TBS New Direction is doing what we do right now.
And y'all doing big things.
We doing good things, but we got a lot to do because you know every fourth Friday of the month we bring people together. We call it a dinner. But it's public. We promote public safety and the quality of life in our communities, and we bring people together up at the church. Pastor Reggie, you understand? And our first dinner was me, Pastor Reggie, TBS New Direction, and I say Pastor Reggie. I always put Pastor Reggie in it because there's a lot of things we can't do without him. Not because of the church, because his spiritual guidance keep us going. And I am not gonna lie to you.
Say the name of that church.
United Christian Baptist Church.
And where is it?
713 East 222nd Street, in the best borough, in the best city, in the best state in the world, the Bronx.
I like that.
You know,
I like that.
when we started our first dinner, Pastor Reggie and I, we sat down. We said, "Come on," you know. We linked up with an organization called Peace December, and one of the best organizations I think we ever tapped into. Our first dinner, we had about 25 people. Our second dinner, we had about 35, 40 people. But we calling on the OGs to come together, to stand up, you understand, and be accountable. Now there's 4 groups that promote this dinner with us. Peacemakers, United We Stand, TBS New Direction, United Christian Baptist Church, there's 5 of us, and Peace December Organization. And I hope at our meeting this week, this Friday, the 28th, 6 to 9, at 713 East 222nd Street, I hope to bring in more organizations. Because like you said, we got to bring in these organizations, the OGs, we got to stand up and be accountable. I can go to your neighborhood, but there's very little I can do. But if I have you in your neighborhood and me and you walk together in your neighborhood, there's a lot we can do. See, I don't run into nobody's neighborhood. What we do, the Black Spades, and this is another thing about the Spades, we were so large in the Bronx that everywhere I go, there's Spades. So we're recruiting and trying to bring the brothers out. And all the areas that we go into, we're bringing them out to stand with us. And you know what I do? Hey, do me a favor, introduce me to the who's who in the neighborhood. And we go in and we sit down and we talk. You know, and we do the best we can. And the best we can is that we don't give up. We just keep going in. And when I say the best we can, and I say it again, we don't give up. We keep going in. We don't step on nobody's toes. We're not going in there, you understand, telling people what they got to do. We're just trying to get them to look at themselves and see tomorrow. Because a lot of us don't look beyond today. You know?
It's a forum that we gather together trying to get like-minded people, you know, people that are trying to make a difference in our communities. so that we can walk together. And it's the same thing as back in the civil rights days. The reason why that was so successful is because you had like-minded people doing like-minded things. And that's basically what we're trying to do now, get like-minded people together to save our communities. It's not about, to me, it's about what we can do together. You know, how we can get this organization, and all of us to walk in the same area so that we can change the way things are. And that's basically it. I'm not trying to, build myself up. I'm not trying to build them up. I'm not trying to build anybody up. Right. I'm trying to correct my community. And that's what it's all about, making a change, a positive change in our community so that our children will grow up and help the ones that's going to come behind them. We have to help each other.
Speaking of children, I mean, don't be afraid of that social media, because people, they use it for the wrong reasons sometimes. But if you use it for the right reasons,
well, they use it for the reasons that they want.
I'm a student of Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, and he said in order to teach the people, you have to reach the people.
That is
and
correct.
Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, our young people are so embedded in that internet and
you
that
have
social
to use
media.
it all.
You have to grasp them. You got to grab them while they're there.
You can't let somebody shoot you with your own gun.
That's right.
We only got like a minute left, so I'm gonna give you one last chance. I do want to say this in the little 10 seconds I got, that this brother here, a lot of y'all don't know this brother here, but this brother here is all business. He we throw a thing called a People's Film Festival. One of my producers, Veronica Kitt, throws a People's Film Festival. And Black Spades Security does security for the People's Film Festival. And I come in there in my little tuxedo. He knows me better than my own family. Talking about, where is my yellow to get in my own event? I'm like, I'm Beyonce, damn it, let me hear it. You got like a couple of seconds left. Make sure they know what you're doing, how they can get in touch with you. So,
well, it's TBS New Direction, Black Spades New Direction. That's our new thing. We're trying to go back to where our founders, the founders of the Black Spades, started. We're trying to create today. We're trying to make a difference. We're trying to improve the quality of life. You understand? We're trying to uplift our youth the best of our ability. Our organization is basically all Black Spades.
10 seconds, tell them how to get to you.
And so we located up at 713. This is our church, 713 East 222nd Street. Our pastor, this is our pastor, this is our spiritual advisor, and he's also my personal spiritual advisor. My phone number is 347-951-0931. Anybody would like to reach out to me, please do.
We out. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. Peace. We done.
All right.
Oh,